Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us.
Glad to be here.
Today we're going to be looking at something a little bit different, and
This
this
way.
this one's kind of special. You know, I was looking through, and
Yeah.
I think this one is going to apply to a lot of our listeners.
Mm.
So the book we're looking at today is The Game of Life and How to Play It.
By Florence Scovel Shinn.
Yeah, by Florence Scovel Shinn, and it was written in like 1925,
So almost 100 years ago.
almost 100 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to be seeing if her advice,
If it holds up.
if it holds up.
Yeah.
And
for our modern lives.
yeah, and how we could apply it to our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So it's interesting because right off the bat, the book kind of frames life,
Yeah.
not as this constant battle or struggle, but
Yeah.
as a game
Yeah.
where we can shape our reality with our thoughts.
right.
It's a bit like the modern concept of manifestation.
Yeah, like we have the power
Yeah,
to create our own reality.
that's right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Shinn kicks off the book with this concept of life as a game of giving and receiving.
Yeah, kind of like karma.
Yeah, and she says that whatever we put out into the world,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's good or bad, you get back.
You get it back.
And this doesn't just apply to our actions, but also to our thoughts and words.
It's a really important point because it means we have to be super mindful of what we're dwelling on.
Yeah, like what we're focusing on.
Right, because there's this crazy story in the book
Oh, yeah, about the lady
about this woman
Yeah.
who, as a
And I-
kid,
loved to play pretend.
yeah,
And pretend she was a widow.
yeah, and then later in life she actually ends up
Living that out.
living that out.
Which is a little spooky when you think about it.
Yeah, so what's that tell you?
It really shows how powerful our thoughts can be.
Yeah,
And Shinn refers to this as the imaging faculty,
yeah.
which basically means what we constantly imagine,
Uh-huh.
we can actually attract into our lives.
So have you ever experienced something like that? Yeah, like where you focus so much on something good or bad
Yeah.
that it actually seemed to manifest in your reality.
I know I have, like
Huh?
several times. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Makes you think.
Yeah, for sure. So Shinn goes into this model of the mind.
Okay.
And she says that it has three parts.
Okay.
The subconscious,
We're conscious.
the conscious, and the
It's a
superconscious.
super conscious.
Yeah. So
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what she says about each of these.
she describes the subconscious as this like powerhouse of raw energy.
Like electricity.
Yeah, like electricity.
Yeah.
And it needs direction, which comes from our conscious thoughts.
Okay, so our thoughts are basically the steering wheel
Yeah.
for this powerful subconscious energy.
Uh-huh. And then the superconscious, she says, is this realm of like perfect ideas.
So it's kind of like tapping into a higher power.
Yeah, like a higher wisdom.
That's right.
So it sounds like we're constantly feeding our subconscious with either like positive or negative stuff.
Yeah, whatever we focus on. It's what we're going to get back.
And that's where this idea of divine design comes in.
Divine design. What's that?
So Shinn says that there's this like perfect plan for everyone,
Okay.
this path that we're meant to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that,
That's interesting.
yeah, she says that these impossible desires that we have,
Mm-hmm.
they might actually be glimpses of our true potential.
Okay, so it's like our soul is whispering to us
Yeah.
about what we're truly meant to do.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Have you ever felt drawn to something that seemed impossible, but it just felt so right?
I mean, all the time. That's kind of like what led me to
Yeah.
this work.
Yeah, totally.
That's like a calling almost.
Yeah. And Shinn also emphasizes that our words,
Mm-hmm.
they play a huge role in all of this.
Okay.
She says that they're not just sounds, but they have like actual power
Okay.
to shape our reality.
So we're not just talking about thoughts. We're also talking about
Yeah.
what we say out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if our thoughts and words are so powerful, doesn't that mean we're all just like walking magnets for bad stuff too?
That's a good question.
How does Shinn address that?
Well, she gives these specific examples, and some are actually pretty funny.
Okay.
So there's this one about a woman who kept joking about ending up in the poorhouse.
Uh-huh.
And guess what she actually did? And then there are stories about people who achieve success,
Yeah.
but they attribute it all to lucky monkeys.
Lucky monkeys.
Yeah, instead of their own efforts, and they end up losing everything.
So it's like tempting fate almost.
It's like they're not taking ownership of
Yeah.
their own success.
So they don't really believe.
Right. And then the universe is like,
Yeah.
okay, you don't want it.
Yeah, you don't really deserve this.
Here you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see how focusing on the negative might bring more negativity.
Yeah.
But what about positive self-talk? Can we really talk ourselves into good fortune?
I mean, that's what she's saying, right?
Right. Shinn absolutely believes so. She talks about this woman who healed a serious skin condition through the power of love
Wow.
by overcoming years of resentment.
So it's not just about avoiding negative thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also about cultivating positive ones.
That's right.
So what about action?
Okay.
How do we actually start playing this game of life effectively?
Well, one key strategy Shinn emphasizes is non-resistance.
Non-resistance.
Yeah, it's about not fighting against challenges,
Okay.
but aligning with a higher power to navigate them.
So it's not about being passive,
No, not at all.
but more about working with the flow of things.
Yeah, kind of like going with the current instead of against it.
I remember reading this story about a woman who was terrified of walking under ladders.
Oh, yeah.
And one day she needed to get to her safe deposit box.
Okay.
And there was a ladder right in her path.
Right, and her.
And she remembers non-resistance
Mhm.
and decides to face her fear.
And what happened?
And the ladder was gone.
The ladder was gone.
It makes you wonder if our anxieties are sometimes creating the things
That we're trying to avoid.
that we're trying to avoid. Have you ever noticed that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, the more I worry about something,
Yeah.
the more likely it is to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And this all ties back to the law of karma,
Which is
actions and consequences.
what goes around comes around.
Yeah, Shinn has this funny anecdote about a woman who told her aunt
At lunch,
at lunch, no more talk.
no more talk.
I want to eat in peace.
Oh, my gosh.
And then the very next day,
Someone said the same thing to her.
someone said the exact same thing to her mid-sentence.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like the universe has a sense of humor,
Yeah.
right?
So if karma is this system of checks and balances,
Mm-hmm.
how do we escape negative cycles? Can we ever truly break free from past mistakes?
That's where grace or forgiveness comes in.
Okay.
Shinn says that it can actually transcend karma.
So it's like a get-out-of-jail-free card
Kind of, yeah.
for our past.
It's about releasing that negativity and stepping into a higher vibration.
So we've talked about thoughts, words, and actions,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we actually change our subconscious programming?
Yeah, that's a great question.
How do we impress upon it all this good stuff we want to manifest?
That's where we'll pick up
Yeah,
in the next part.
in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. So last time we left off on the question of...
Yeah, like how do we actually change our subconscious programming?
Right, and that's where Shinn's book gets really practical.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so one of the simplest yet most powerful techniques
Okay.
that Shinn talks about is affirmations.
Affirmations.
Yeah, basically repeating statements about our desired outcomes.
Okay, so it's like we're telling our subconscious
Exactly.
what we want.
Yeah, it's like giving it clear instructions.
Okay, so if I keep saying, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am loved,
Exactly.
then my subconscious will start to believe it.
That's the idea.
But what if you don't actually believe those things yet?
That's a really good question.
Like, wouldn't that feel kind of fake?
Yeah, and Shinad actually addresses that.
Okay.
She says it's super important to choose affirmations
Okay.
that resonate with our true beliefs.
Okay.
If we're affirming something we genuinely don't believe,
Yeah.
it creates inner conflict,
Okay.
and it can actually hinder the process.
So it's more about identifying the limiting beliefs that we already have
Exact.
and then choosing affirmations.
Yet challenge those beliefs.
Yeah.
And align with what we truly desire.
Okay, so it's about gradually shifting our mindset
Lack to possibility.
from lack to possibility.
I like that. And Shinn also suggests using music
Music.
to enhance affirmations.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever noticed how music can totally change your mood?
Oh, absolutely. Music is so powerful.
It really is.
Yeah, I have like all these different playlists
For different moods.
to different moods. Yeah.
Me too.
Some for when I need to like relax and some for when I need to like get pumped up.
It's like music can bypass the conscious mind and go straight to the subconscious.
So if we combine affirmations with music,
That evokes positive emotions.
and then we can amplify their power.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like creating a soundtrack for our transformation.
I like that soundtrack for our transformation. What about movement?
Oh yeah, movement's great too.
Okay.
Shinn talks about rhythmic movement, like dancing, or even just walking,
Okay.
can help embed affirmations into our subconscious.
Interesting. So it's like the physical expression
Yeah,
of our intentions.
exactly.
Okay, so we've got affirmations, music, and movement. What else?
Well, another interesting concept Shinn brings up is casting the burden.
Casting the burden. I've heard of that.
It's essentially about surrendering our worries and problems
I don't-
to a higher power.
Okay, do you elaborate on that a little?
Sure, so she uses this analogy of gravity.
Okay.
Think about a heavy boulder.
Okay.
It feels heavy because of gravity's pull, right?
Right.
But if we lift that boulder high above the earth,
Yeah.
it would become weightless. Similarly, when we feel weighed down by worries and anxieties, we can choose to cast those burdens onto a higher power.
So it's like we're acknowledging
Yeah.
that we don't have to carry everything ourselves.
Exactly. We don't have to control everything.
Yeah.
We can trust that there's a greater intelligence that can
Yeah.
help us.
Okay, I like that. So we can use affirmations, music movement, and we can cast our burdens. But what about when things get really tough?
Yeah, that's right.
What about those dark nights of the soul when it feels like everything's falling apart?
Shinn actually talks about experiencing a period of darkness before the dawn,
Okay.
before a major breakthrough in her own life.
So it's like a necessary part of the process.
It can be.
Yeah, like it's got to get worse before it gets better.
Sometimes, yeah, it's like when we start to challenge our old beliefs and patterns,
Yeah.
it can feel like our whole world is being shaken up.
Okay.
And all those fears and doubts come to the surface.
Yeah, it's like shaking up a snow globe
I love that analogy.
and all the settled particles
Yeah.
get stirred up
Yeah.
and create a temporary blizzard.
But eventually,
Yeah.
it all settles down again.
And you have a fresh perspective.
And a fresh perspective, exactly.
So how do we hold on to faith when it feels like everything is going wrong?
Well, Shinn compares it to the story of Jehoshaphat in the Bible,
Okay.
who faced a massive enemy army,
Okay.
but instead of panicking,
Yeah.
he chose to praise God.
Okay.
And miraculously, his enemies were defeated.
Wow.
So it's about choosing faith over fear,
even when it's really hard.
especially when it's hard.
Okay, and remember, action is just as important as belief.
Absolutely. Shinn calls it active faith.
Active faith.
Yeah, it's not enough to just wish for things to change.
Okay.
We have to take action.
Okay, like put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Are there any stories from the book that illustrate this?
There's a really inspiring one about a woman who was separated from her husband.
Okay.
He refused to reconcile with her, and
Wow.
she was heartbroken, but
Yeah.
she started learning about these spiritual principles,
Okay.
and she began affirming the
Mhm.
truth of their unity and divine mind.
So even though they were physically separated,
Yeah,
she chose to believe they were still connected on a deeper level.
exactly.
Okay.
And she even started setting a place for him at the dinner table every day,
Wow, so she was acting as if
as if he was already there.
that's powerful.
It is.
It'll work.
After a year of holding that vision and acting as if,
Yeah.
he came back.
Wow.
It's a powerful story.
It really shows how our imagination
Mm.
and belief
Yeah,
can shape our reality.
absolutely.
Okay, so we've got affirmations, music movement, casting the burden, taking inspired action. Anything else?
Well, she also talks about celebrating the small wins along the way.
Oh, yeah, like the little signs.
Yeah, the synchronicities.
Yeah,
The little breadcrumbs the universe leaves for us.
like those little hints that we're on the right track.
Exactly. She calls them signs of land,
Correct.
comparing them to the birds and twigs that Columbus saw before reaching America.
Oh, yeah, so it's like the universe's way of saying you're getting closer.
You got it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Affirmations, music movement, casting the burden, taking inspired action, celebrating small wins. Anything else we should keep in mind?
Well, there's one more crucial piece we need to talk about,
Okay,
and that's overcoming fear.
fear.
Yeah.
Because fear can really hold us back.
It can. It's like a giant stop sign
Yeah, and that's where we'll pick up in the final part.
of our deep dive.
We'll explore Shinn's insights on how to face our fears.
And step into our power.
Sounds good. Can't wait to tackle that. But until then, I encourage you to reflect on what resonated with you today. What aha moments did you have, and how might you experiment with these ideas in your own life?
It's been great exploring this with you.
We'll be back soon for the final part of our deep dive into the game of life. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and how to play it. We've talked about the power of our thoughts, words, and actions, and we've explored some techniques for like reprogramming our subconscious mind. But there's one more biggie we got to tackle, and that's fear.
Fear. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, because fear can really hold us back, right? It's like that little voice of doubt that's always whispering in our ear.
It's like a shadow that follows us around.
Yeah, so how do we like shake off that shadow?
Shinn's advice is pretty simple.
Okay,
Walk up to the thing you're afraid of.
really just walk right up to it.
She believes that fear thrives in the shadows, But when we confront it directly,
Yeah.
it loses its power.
Okay, so it's like that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly.
But that's easier said than done, right? Like some fears are pretty deep-seated.
Yeah, some fears take time to work through.
So what are some practical ways to actually walk up to those things that we're terrified of?
Well, she gives some interesting examples in the book.
Okay.
She talks about how some of her students overcame financial scarcity
Hmm.
by actually releasing their fear of spending money.
Really, by spending money?
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but it's about shifting your subconscious programming from lack to abundance
Okay, so by spending money, they were demonstrating their faith.
in their ability to attract more wealth,
So it's about trusting that the universe will provide.
even when you don't know how.
Yeah, even when it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about those fears that aren't so easy to just walk up to?
Right.
Like, what if you're afraid of public speaking or heights?
You can't just force yourself to do those things.
Right.
It takes inner work.
Yeah, and patience.
Lots of patience.
So facing our fears is a process,
It's a journey.
not a destination.
Exactly.
Shinn also talks about the importance of forgiving ourselves
Forgiving ourselves.
for past mistakes.
Oh, yeah, because that can really fuel our fears.
Yeah, guilt and regret can keep us stuck.
In a cycle of self-sabotage.
So forgiving ourselves is like clearing out the mental and emotional baggage
That's a great way to put it.
that's preventing us from taking risks.
Yeah, it's like giving ourselves permission
Yeah.
to start fresh.
Okay, so we've got to be willing to face our fears, forgive ourselves, and trust that the universe has our back. But how does all of this play out in the real world?
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
These aren't just abstract theories.
Okay.
They're principles we can apply to every area of our lives.
Our careers, our relationships.
Our health, our finances, everything.
So it's not about becoming some spiritual guru.
Not at all.
It's about making conscious choices
That align with our highest good.
and trusting that we're being guided every step of the way.
Exactly.
I love that it's so empowering to think that we have this ability to shape our reality,
You really do.
even if it doesn't happen overnight,
It's a journey.
not a destination. Any final words of wisdom from Shinn?
One of my favorite quotes from the book is, "The game is not so much in winning as in playing it well."
Oh, I love that.
I think that sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, life is meant to be enjoyed.
Not just endured.
So true. Well, dear listener, I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and how to play it.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Remember, the real game begins when you start putting these ideas into practice
So go out there and play.
with joy, courage, and an open heart.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.